What does Cursed Digicam hide from the player behind the scenes and out of bounds? Cursed Digicam is a short horror game in which a father, tormented by the loss of his daughter, uses a special camera in hopes of freeing her spirit. It's one of many unsettling games by Chilla, a Japanese indie studio founded by two brothers. Cursed Digicam fills its small, detailed areas with various haunting apparitions, which are perfect for looking at off-camera. Like seeing how many hidden copies of people are used to pull off some of these hauntings. We'll also be breaking some things along the way, so I hope you enjoyed this alternative look. As always, I'll be briefly recapping the game as it unfolds, which is split into two main sections. First off, the game opens with a video recording of the playground in a local park. The voice of a young girl is heard from off-screen, inviting someone, presumably the person recording the video, to a race. The video screen cracks, and the screen goes black. A message from the point of view character explains that his daughter died at the local park, and now her spirit torments him and he must free her. We see a missing person flyer with two images of a young girl wearing a black elementary school outfit. The most important information, her name, is redacted. Next, he says that he found the perfect website for his needs, which claims to be capable of liberating lingering spirits. It states that you must take pictures of your loved one using a special camera and upload 15 photos to receive a message from the spirit. With this setup, we cut over to the park. There are a total of 19 photo opportunities, each predetermined and carefully set up to surprise and unsettle the player. When capturing a viable picture of the spirit girl shown in the missing persons flyer, the screen will glitch out and the spirit will disappear, usually. There are also 4-digit phone numbers written all over, each corresponding to a specific photo spot, providing a clue when used at the phone booth. After your first picture of the girl seen peeking through the bathroom stall's door, you'll be directed over to the phone booth, where an important but mysterious message plays. It's from a young girl trying to contact her father, asking when he'll be home and stating that her head hurts. From there, you're able to explore the park and capture photos of the spirit girl. After the third successful photo, an unseen loudspeaker will play with a message from a local elementary school. It seems a child has been reported missing, and that it's unsafe to be out late. After the 5th photo, there'll be another announcement, but this time it's the same voice heard on the phone. She says her name is Mitsuka, and that she'd often visit the neighborhood park with her father, but hasn't been able to recently because he's so busy. After the 7th photo, it will abruptly change from day to night. The spirit's locations will change, and it won't take long for things to get a bit spookier. When you successfully take a photo, some of them will cause the environment to change. It becomes obvious that, aside from you and the spirit girl, there's someone else in the park with you. This is Mikey, or at least it's someone wearing the costume of Mikey. After the 15th photo, it will begin raining, and you can then leave the park and return home. But before that, let's rewind and start breaking things apart. So back at the computer scene, the majority of this game's cutscenes are pre-rendered movies played on screen. As such, we can't break the game to learn more about the people in the recording. We'll just have to use context clues provided throughout the game. Now, back to the bathroom. If we hide the surrounding stalls, rather than the rest of the spirit girl's body, we'll see nothing. This is because the game uses planes essentially as object masks, meaning the apparition is only visible when seen through the plane. If we hide the bathroom and adjust the models, it turns out there's actually 3 copies of the girl being used, one for the face and body, and the other 2 for the hands. Knowing this is all the more creepier. Off in the distance, you can also see another instance of the spirit girl clung to a young schoolboy. If you move around, you can see that her head will track you. This spot has its own viewing window, so to speak, which resides just beside the crosswalk. We can easily visualize this by turning the kids into a kaiju, which happens to also size up the girl. Now, her outfit takes up the entire window, which only remains visible from a certain distance away. This is another way that Chilla's art curates your experience. A lot of these unsettling apparitions can look odd, if not viewed from the correct distance and angle. On that topic, the game blurs the screen normally, but then goes the other way and ups the sharpness along with the visual grain and lens distortion to sell the camera view. And if you're curious, in this game you don't have hands, feet, or anything. You're just a floating camera. This fact is made obvious by the phone booth's reflection, which shows that the camera, when not in use, remains visible. It's just always down below your field of view. It's from here that it'll swing up into position when used, like so. The other reflections the game has, like the bathroom mirror and puddles, keeps the camera hidden. As for the other apparitions, when viewing the slide stairs from the back, you can see the spirit girl sitting atop, and then her feet, but not the space between. This was done using 2 separate copies of the girl's model, perhaps because otherwise the legs would not be long enough. Oh, and if you're curious, you can play on the slide yourself by walking up the steps and hitting the trigger for the slide animation to play. Unfortunately, this animation isn't actually linked to the slide object, so while it's possible to climb up the stairs into the sky, we won't be sliding down from outer space anytime soon. The tunnel spot also uses 2 separate models. The first is hanging out, floating above the tunnel. Her arms have been folded in, probably to avoid clipping out of the structure. The other is just a bit of her face, visible inside the backpack. Nearby, when you stand beside the green rain boots and look at the climbable mound with the camera, the girl's face can be seen. Without the camera's distortion, this is much clearer. But moving the mound away and replacing it with a large, flat surface works the best. It seems her face texture is being applied to any intersecting object, which is why the vending machine's metal makes her look weirdly shiny. The girl also appears in front of the vending machine, but only when you are positioned inside the jungle gym. Since it forces the player to crouch, move slower, and generally limits your mobility, there's no viewing window utilized here. The water fountain also doesn't use any viewing window, instead letting the girl's position under the grate and the player's distance dictate when she's visible. Also, despite her lower half remaining underground, her legs are positioned as if she's crouching. The park also has the remaining trunk of a tree with scratches around its circumference. The camera reveals the girl's hands, and they'll rotate along with the player. If we hide the tree, it'll reveal nothing, because the hands aren't connected to anything. The hands only follow the character's position, not the camera. So this is what it looks like from another side. In the boys' bathroom, the girl peeking over the stall tracks the camera with her head, not the player. Before we explore the park at night, let's discuss the surrounding environment. An invisible wall blocks our movement on all sides of the park, but it's possible to pass through by either teleporting or just slamming the player against the wall. Either way, this isn't helpful, as the ground lacks collision after a certain point. If we change the size of the park's dirt, it's possible to explore the neighborhood on foot. This, along with a bit of free cam, reveals not a lot, but still a jolly good time to go on a stroll. There are properly modeled trees in and near the park, but filling in the space farther away are flat spreads of trees. The park is surrounded by a small street on all sides, along with multiple instances of the same apartment building. Each building isn't symmetrical, so some have their windows and stairwells towards the park, and others their balconies. The only lit up windows belong to the player's apartment, which uses the same interior that we'll see later, just with no furniture. Additionally, behind the apartment building, closest to the park's bathroom, there's an invisible volume that messes with your camera. Turns out it's the same effect that occurs after taking a successful photo. It seems that the game simply teleports the volume to your location as the photo shows up on screen, then teleports it back afterwards. Swapping over to nighttime, the camera reveals large eyes staring back at us from the living room and kitchen windows. It might not be obvious, but this isn't the same spirit girl we've been seeing around the park, but instead the character's daughter Mitsuka. Off to the right is one of the instances of Mikey, who is looking out from Mitsuka's bedroom. Mikey will appear in 5 other locations for a short amount of time, disappearing once the player has looked towards them. Across the street, he'll duck behind the bush, and when photographing the spirit girl in the mirror of the boys' bathroom, Mikey will move to the right of the door. In both instances, he disappears while unseen. The jungle gym is a bit different. When walking into the center, near the drawings of Mikey, he'll suddenly appear positioned directly atop the structure, watching the player as they move. After a time, he'll disappear regardless if he's being watched. As for the nighttime apparitions, the vending machine has another one, more gruesome than earlier. The girl will occasionally reach out from the bottom and place a human heart into the backpack. Thanks for the donation, but I think I'm good. Once captured, the machine will malfunction and shoot out multiple gold cans. Upon closer inspection, these are cans of beer called Premium Daikoku, which is a spoof of a real brand called Premium Yibisu. Pardon my Japanglish. Nearby, the horizontal bars have a garbage bag on the ground, along with a floating girl only visible from the neck down, which leads to a gruesome conclusion. However, if we rotate the girl around, it turns out she still has her head, just folded back out of sight. This also applies to all the other instances of the girl that briefly appear after you take the picture. Moving along, the last 3 ghostly appearances we'll look at involve water. The spirit girl periodically pops out of a puddle to push the swing before ducking back down. Her model disappears once she's below ground, which keeps the animations nice and short. The swing set itself is interesting, as it's one of the very few objects in this game that abides by the laws of physics. Unfortunately, it's not meant to be played on by anyone, but that didn't stop me from trying. Look how wild this bad boy is. It's clearly possessed. From atop the slide, rushing water will appear, and the girl will be attempting to fight the current to stay above water. And most importantly, when inside the phone booth, you can see a reflection of the girl making a call. Snapping the picture will cause the door to close and lock, and the booth will fill with water, only letting you go just before you drown. All of this imagery will be very relevant later, but it's worth noting a few interesting things here. For the phone booth and boys' room mirror reflections, the spirit girl's model is in position, just hidden whenever the player's camera is nearby. Also, the water is just a simple cube, slightly bigger than the booth, raised up until it disappears. But now let's move on to the apartment. Once the player returns home and submits the ghost photos, the spirit girl's message will be a video of her being chased into the girls' room at the park. Looking up from the PC, the lights flash, and two different figures can be seen in the darkness. This means the spirit has not been liberated, so the player is forced to take more ghost photos around the apartment. After enough photos, the door to Mitsuka's bedroom will open. Mikey will jump scare the player, and a short boss battle will ensue. Mikey will repeatedly rush the player, and they'll need to snap a pic before getting attacked. Apparently, he's a little camera shy. Eventually, the player's character will take refuge in his daughter's room. Even there, Mikey still manages to sneak up on him. After returning to the computer, the father will attempt to upload photos of Mitsuka, but it's past the 13-day limit. Still, another video plays, this one depicting how the daughter passed away in front of the phone, only found later once the father returned home. The missing person's flyer is seen again, this time uncensored. The father watches through the camera as the spirit girl, real name Manami Koden, makes her way out of the bathroom. Once the camera goes down, it's the spirit of the daughter, Mitsuka, who dials the police and reports that Manami was killed by her father, aka the player's character. After the credits roll, sirens will blare as the father answers the door for the police. The last moments are captured by the cursed Digicam, now damaged and on the street, as the father falls from the balcony, followed by Mitsuka's spirit. Let's rewind time now and look at this from another angle. Starting with that unsettling cutscene from Manami, in the game's files, there's multiple versions of the cutscene. What's seen in-game is Video 1v3. The file of Video 1v2 has Manami walking, instead of playing on the Spring Rider, and parts of the environment have different low-quality textures. Manami's animations are also a bit less polished. The last file, called Video 1, is the shortest, with the least detail. Based on the file's creation date, Video 1 was made earlier in development, as there's a UE5 test video from a few weeks earlier. This is a desktop recording of the game, looking quite different. Outside, it's kinda nighttime, but the sky isn't rendering correctly, and the lamppost isn't lined up with a spotlight. The phone booth is positioned over past the swing set, and it's hard to tell, but it seems a couple school children are hanging out in the distance, behind where the horizontal bars would end up going. Overall, it's an interesting glimpse into the developer's journey. There's also quite a few versions of the other cutscene of Mitsuka's final moments before being found by her father. Based on the file names, there were 8 iterations. In the first few, Mitsuka's outfit changes, and we can see a lot more thanks to the wider viewing angle. Version 4 onwards has the camera positioned closer, and it seems they're trying out different lighting setups. A small detail that was left in is that you can see the shadow of something pop in just before the view cuts to black and the father appears. So this might be the model being loaded in, and its shadow caught on camera. When the apartment sequence begins, the first shadowy figure that we see is the usual spirit girl Manami, but the second one is a completely new model. It seems to be an older, perhaps zombified version of Manami. Throughout the apartment, there are 16 possible photos, but only 11 are needed to progress the game. The first one, that you are forced to take before moving on, echoes the one in the park's bathroom, this time showing Manami sitting on the kotatsu with her head angled backwards. Taking a look from the other side, she doesn't seem all that bothered. That done, if you look out at the balcony from the living room, Manami will be hanging on to the ledge. There's nothing all that special about this photo, but it is a good time to take a look outside. The apartment building is the same model seen from the park, but now it sits in a dark void. The game has a particle system producing rain that tracks the camera, which is easier to see by pausing the game and moving away. As time resumes, the rain falls around the camera, giving the illusion of a dark and stormy night. Overlapping with the apartment complex, stretched over the whole apartment interior, is an unshaded black rectangle. This blocks the rain from falling or splashing into the apartment, which can be seen when we adjust its position to only cover half the room. I hope my insurance covers this. In the room with the kotatsu, Manami can be seen peeking out from the closet and under the covers. Her arms also stick out from a hanging sweatshirt. While none of these are really unique in how they're presented, it is one of the only times you can witness multiple instances of the girl at once. If you close the doors to the living room, the camera will reveal the zombie peering through, making the doors invisible reveals that her hands are repositioned despite being out of view. Additionally, the game is using a window of sorts that distorts and chroma shifts whatever's behind it, making the sight more gross. This is also used for the instance behind the kitchen curtains, but Zombie is in a standard A pose, since only her sickly legs can be seen. The camera also reveals a bloody body part, perhaps an ear, sitting in the microwave, but I couldn't help but notice a cockroach on the back wall spinning at Mach 10, perhaps the greatest nightmare yet. This isn't very surprising though, because the roaches are another particle system of sorts that will crawl on any surface within a given volume. But the game uses a number of insect avoid volumes to control where they can walk and prevent their movement from being even buggier than they already are. Manami, at least the one stuffed into the washing machine, is also spinning quite fast. This is a creative spot because during normal gameplay, the only time you can clearly see her is in the photo itself. Slowing things down though, it's clear that Chilla's art had to reposition her limbs quite a lot to make her fit, which is right on the border of creepy and comical. Back in the living room, the pile of trash has a pair of ghostly legs sticking out. Moving the camera out of bounds reveals these legs belong to a generic adult female who has her torso twisted downwards to avoid clipping through the thin wall. Across from the washer is the door to the shower room, and Manami can be seen on the other side of the frosted glass. Moving the camera inside gives a better look at the tub scene in the earlier discussed cutscene. The interior is stainless steel, which makes sense. It's never meant to be seen. The exterior is exactly as gruesome as you'd expect. Now let's shift focus and check out Mitsuka's room. While the door remains locked until the photo count is reached, we can move the camera inside to check it out whenever. This reveals that Mikey has been loaded in, positioned behind the door the entire time. What's more, his head has been tracking the player even through the walls, from the moment they got up from the computer. This gives us a prime opportunity to take a look and see who is under the mask. Turns out, it's an untextured, generic face. So, even with the tools at our disposal, unmasking Mikey won't help identify him. Scooby and the gang are going to have a really hard time with this one. Still, it is worth noting that it is in fact Zombie wearing the Mikey mask for the latter half of the boss fight, which definitely symbolizes something. Regardless, the boss fight works the same no matter who is under the mask. They'll spawn somewhere in the apartment, usually out of view, and then walk towards the player. The pathfinding is very basic, so they can and will get stuck on the furniture and doorways. Seeing this sort of undermines the terror of the situation, which is probably why you normally don't get a flashlight. But with that, that's everything I could find off camera and behind the scenes of Chilla's art Cursed Digicam. I hope you enjoyed this paranormal adventure and hope to see you all again very soon.